All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't know who I am Lekan Oloye, and I am the founder and CEO of BPTN, Black Professionals in Tech Network. It is just an honor to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation with such awesome, Black women in technology. It's going to be an incredible day. It's going to be an incredible session. So really looking forward to the conversation, right? So I want to introduce, two women and two Black women in technology that I just love and adore and appreciate in so many ways, right? Colleen Ward and Margo Goodson. These two, women, these two amazing leaders, right, are doing so much incredible work. And I wanted to have them on to talk to you all about the things that, is going to be happening at the BFUTR Summit. If you don't yet know about the BFUTR Summit, I don't know where you are, right? But it's happening next week, next Thursday, next Friday, right? October 22nd, 23rd, all day. 10,000 Black tech professionals are going to be coming together from across the globe, right, to talk about the future of technology, to talk about how you move the needle, in technology, right? To talk about, the future of technology is Black, right? And how you become more intentional about doing that. There's so many amazing things that's going to be happening. I thought, I just had to bring on these amazing leaders to have a conversation with you and for you to have a conversation with us, right? So I want to welcome, Colleen Ward to the stage. I want to welcome Margo Goodson to the stage, right? To have a conversation with you all. Good morning. Good morning, both. How are you doing?
Hey,
Good
we can.
morning. Good
Hi there.
afternoon.
So
Thanks for
welcome.
having us.
No worries. Thank you so much for being here. I want you to first of all introduce yourselves, right? I don't think I can ever do justice to the amazing work you both do, right? So I want you to introduce yourself. So let's start with with Margot. Margot, tell us a little bit about you, your background. Let's just start with like what you do right now, and then we can go back in terms of how you got to where you are.
Okay, thanks for having me. Good afternoon to both of you. I am Margo Goodson. I am Vice President and Head of North America Diversity and Inclusion at SAP, and responsible for strategy across our 25,000 colleagues in US and Canada as it relates to our diversity and inclusion efforts. So tying it to our organizational goals, making sure our interventions, policies, programs are highly inclusive, equitable, and favorable for the employee base, but recognizing that it touches more than just our
Vice President in technology. I've had a variety of roles. I've owned tech stacks, hundreds of assets, delivery of many new products and features and enhancements, and just recently transitioned to a new role where I own the delivery of end-to-end programs and projects and journeys and manage the tech investment for several businesses.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I want to go right into it. I want to talk about the summit, right? And I want to ask you, like, how are you preparing for the summit? How are you thinking about the summit? What's exciting you about the summit right now?
So I'm excited about who's going to be there. So the professionals that I witnessed last year live in Toronto and how that's expanding this year globally really lets me know that the talent pipeline is full of professionals who are engaging, who are intelligent, who are ready to be hired. And so we are preparing by just getting our colleagues ready to participate, whether they're our talent acquisition colleagues or our Black Employee Network E&G members and other leaders and hiring managers to make sure that we're ready to represent SAP well and show the community what it is that they can do with a career at SAP. We're going to talk about different things from our roles, but then also thought leadership. We have 5 different leaders speaking from SAP at the event. So just super excited about the talent that's there, the opportunity that we can provide and that will be provided to us as an organization to see what's out there and what are the next stages of tech. I'm even interested in participating in some of the sessions that the other thought leaders will run throughout the 2-day period.
Awesome, Colleen.
If you don't mind, I'm going to take us back a little bit. I remember one of my first BPTN events where when I walked into the room, I think I was speaking at the event and I was in the green room. And I remember upon entering the room to go on stage, the crowd of Black professionals in the room gave me goosebumps. There were, I think at the time, 400 of us. And I was like, where have y'all been? I was so energized by that. And then shortly thereafter, TD became your title sponsor. And we embarked on the roadshow for the 2019, the inaugural summit. And just like that moment when I walked into the room to 400, I'll never forget standing on stage and seeing 1,200 of us assembled. Bigger than any event that I've ever been to, excluding any like, Caravana Carnival type events. It was absolutely the biggest indoor event ever in my life within my community. So it was an extreme honor. And then this year, to know that we're assembling 10,000 virtually. And I think we need this right now. We are in the midst of 2 pandemics. And I think that we need this energy. We need the inspiration. We need to trigger these synapses and start looking forward to how we evolve ourselves. And again, like Margot said, the roster of speakers is incredible. And if I may do a little bit of TD, we have a whole day of day 1, just TD. So Margo, don't hesitate to join in because
I'll be there.
we've got so many speakers. We have such great content. I'm just going to glimpse landing a job in this virtual environment is the #1 item on day 1. And with 4 speakers from TD participating in that. #2, Black Tech TDers Straight Talk. So we're going to talk to you real, live, honest commentary about being in the financial services space, being virtual, and how we adapted from co-location, often, especially in technology, where we talk much about being that connected and how to maintain that connection, albeit remote. Let's talk AI. So now let's go deep on some subject matter with 2 of our TD leaders. And then the last one, and one of my favorites, Jeff Chan is absolutely brilliant. He's a master at consumer trends on day 1, and he's going to delight us all. And then day 2, we have, I believe, is it almost a dozen TD speakers again? I think so. So much. And then all sorts of organizations. I'm so looking forward to SAP talks, Salesforce. There's so many wonderful speakers lined up. So thank you, BPTN, for curating this content. And it's so exciting. And how could anybody not be there? Whatever background, heritage, wherever walk of life you come from, wherever you are in the world, how could you not?
It's virtual. It opens it up to everyone. And I can echo what you said about the goosebumps last year. I actually flew from Philly to Toronto specifically for this event, had another event locally for the women's group, and then had to get right back on a plane. But I can say it lifted my spirits so to see the vastness of the talent in the room. SAP had a booth there in addition to me walking out on stage speaking, and the booth was continually crowded and continually, engaging with our tech team and the innovation that was on display. And it was such a joy to see, and it was such a joy to share the stage with the other Black leaders in the room. So I'm definitely looking forward to the numbers exponentially growing this year. And like you said, with many sessions, we have Angelique Slagle, who's our head of success factors, leading a session around selling while Black, right? And we know it, hey, just like driving while Black, living while Black, there are a lot of differences, right? There are things that we can attribute success to, and there are some barriers that are there. So we're certainly going to get down to some real talk around that. Hiring, there'll be a full panel that both Tyrone Webb is leading and Andre Yeoman is speaking to what the hiring practices are. They're going to engage in a panel, as you know, with some of the other leaders to just sit and talk around the strategies and what to do and how to do and what we look for on the other side of it. If anyone is learning to sell or utilize at our customer or partner ecosystem, HANA. We have Pat Perry speaking day one on that one. And so I think it's good to see the variety, not just of companies represented, but subject matter being covered. It really is a developmental symposium as much as it is a networking and hiring event. I think that's what makes it so unique. I love almost, the silver lining of the pandemic and the virtual life is that you can reach so many more people. And this is really evangelizing to the community of tech experts out there, what and how to engage and not to miss next week. Because if you miss it, from the opening to the closing, it is a sight to see and an experience to be had. And I look forward to when it's in person again because we had a great time last year at Lansing having the pre-event all the way to the post-event.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Last year was, a really unique opportunity to bring just amazing leadership into the room. There's a lot of times, and I know, you both have heard it. I've heard it many of times that people will say, oh, there's a pipeline problem. We don't know if just there's enough, right? And we've not been able to qualify that in terms of being there being a pipeline problem, right? I would love to get your thoughts around even that initial thinking of a pipeline problem versus when you see amazing leadership, when you see the amazing engagement of Black tech professionals, right? How should people be thinking about this rather than the pipeline problem? How should they be thinking about like the opportunity, right? That could be in front of you right now. I would love to get your thoughts.
Well, I think from a hiring side of it, companies have to diversify our methodologies to diversify our results, right? So let's look at the potential of what a candidate has done as opposed to what they haven't done. Let's look at the transferable skills. Let's
Mhm.
look at the fact that they have the credentials. Don't worry about the color, right? Let's look at where we can make it work in a scenario versus the typical hiring strategies of just the network that you know, the questions that you know. More assessment oriented and scenario based than just standard questions is something that we can do from the corporate side of things. I challenge that there is not a pipeline because SAP even hosted in our Montreal office your kickoff event last August where they saw firsthand and it was just like, okay, well, what types of roles are we looking for? Sometimes that's the mismatch. We hire for a role and that candidate doesn't meet that role description, yet doesn't mean they're not a phenomenal talent to have, right? So let's do that differently. But then on the flip side, I think to be hired, take an inventory of your skills, take an inventory of your experiences, and put forth that which is best received for the market and the industry that you're looking at the time. Tailor it. Because chronologically, everything in your resume may not be relevant for what the person on the other side of the lens is looking to hear and see. So make sure that as the talent that we highlight the best attributes about ourselves relevant to the roles we're looking for. And then also know that if you're coming to a tech event, let's focus on that. If you're going to a marketing event or engineering event, make sure you're being relevant and make sure you're standing apart from, not conforming to what everyone else is doing. I think that will help on both sides of it to challenge that myth because the sheer numbers of people aren't enough. It's okay, what are we going to do with the quality of the candidates to make sure that that funnel, more than a pipeline, around and through end to end is being recognized. So that's what I would say on both sides of the end.
You capture it well and very holistically. I agree with you that at times we may believe or limit our representation of ourselves because we expect we must conform to the role. And what we don't showcase enough is our potential and how we lead ourselves, and then how we influence others, and how we negotiate, and how we our critical thinking, and how we tackle problems with glee. Problems inspire us, move us. We want to demonstrate how progressive we are, how we are able to troubleshoot, in fact, enjoy it. And that is the nature of the beast. The more problems that we can handle, the stronger, more resilient we are. And that's the kind of leadership that organizations are attracting. And we need to showcase that and build a network of sponsors, who will endorse our skill set. So I recently posted an internal only role, and it's a 6-month posting. And I'm enjoying all the emails that I'm receiving of endorsement of candidates. And I love these stories and realize it is, we don't need to do references anymore when you start receiving that sort of commentary from even colleagues who, and I guarantee you, most of these applicants may not even be aware of how they are perceived by others and what kind of impact they've made on other leaders. So I'm encouraging us all to support each other, share with each other when we've seen these golden nuggets of skills and talent in each other, so that we can recognize that in ourselves and hone that further and leverage that more. And similarly, when we see opportunities for each other, let's work together. We've got to pull each other up. We've got to help showcase each other so we can fill up that funnel. And we all know it's a myth. And we all know that it's in our hands to make certain that we frankly overwhelm the community. I want us just to, like, what's going on?
Right. It's more than we can handle, right?
Exactly.
And I always say, you know, our network is our net worth. And just like you
Yes.
would build your portfolio of assets financially, you must do with your people within your internal and external realm. And you have to know who are your influencers, your sponsors, who are your advocates, who are your accomplices, right?
That's
To
right.
get in there with you. And
That's
so
right.
knowing that, understanding the net worth of your network, you have to work it to the best of your ability. Those who are peripheral and can't help you, they can still be a part of your circle. They have a purpose too. But when
That's
you're
right.
talking about what you're trying to do with your professional career, you want to do that. And you always want to present yourself, when possible, as an asset to the company that you're potentially going to, instead of so much what's in it for me, but what is it that I can offer in addition to what is it for me, and knowing enough about the company to tie your story, your elevator pitch, to their organizational goals. Here's why you do want me. Okay, so let's not talk about why you don't. Let's remove all the barriers. I want to hear about the gender. I want to hear about the generational. I want to hear about the ethnicity when I'm talking to you. I want you to hear about the credentials. I want you
Yes.
to know about the fact that, yes, I'm in this space today, but guess what? I'm a CPA. I'm a Six Sigma Green Belt. I'm a
That's right.
certified diversity executive. What you want me to do? I'll do whatever you think lines up with those skills and attributes. Don't pigeonhole me and I won't you. And I think that we have to have that courage sometimes to come
Yeah.
forth, right? To be able to be seen differently than that next candidate.
That's right. And it's about who we, like you say, who we surround ourselves with and help keep our chin up, and how to be forward thinking. And there's even opportunities at the summit, if I should market the summit again, that we do have some side stage events and lounge events for those VIP ticket holders as well, where you can interact with so many leaders and again be encouraged and inspired, and even bolster your own language and representation of yourself. Our self narrative is so important, and sometimes we don't invest enough time on how we represent ourselves as well. And you, by immersing yourself in these in these forums and listening to others, and you practice your own. It's there's so much. Next week as well could be a training ground. There's so much development to
Yes,
be had.
professional development. You're right. You're right. You're right. Because at the end of the day, you know, people used to always say it's not what you know, but who you know. It's actually who knows you, right?
Yes.
Who knows you, who knows your value, who knows your brand, your reputation, and what you can offer. Because those are the ones who are willing to make that handover, if you will, from you to the next person. And so the more you can develop yourself, showcase yourself, even at the summit, and stand out. You could visit every booth there, but where are you standing out? What's the passion that you're led to, and who leads vice versa to you? That's what's going to make the difference. That's the job that you'll land, the career opportunity that you'll find, the ability to have your profession as your passion and your passion as your profession, versus just, okay, I was at this booth. Are you going to hire me or not? You may get there and find you don't want to be hired, right? You want to get there and know, here's the relationship that I'm creating. And maybe it works for today, maybe it works in the future, but this summit My goodness, it's such a way. And wait till you see the technology, right? So, Colleen, we've been on in this advisory week to week. It's phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. This is not your everyday platform that they're using. So get ready.
And you're so right. I love the options we have. Like, you can't get bored. For some of us that have a hint of ADD and like to pretend we can multitask well, the truth is there's so much to do. It's all like I'm trying to curate a list of all the things I want to tackle. I got some conflicts already. I'm going to have to toggle between some things, but I love that I have all these options, and I love that I have this variety as well. It's great. You're so right. Sorry, we're going on and on. Lekan, do you have
Hi,
something you want
Lekan.
to share?
We
Like,
forgot you're here too.
yeah.
Chat amongst each other. Let's chat amongst each other. Right. So you said something earlier, both of you, around courage.
Mhm.
And that struck me. Courage. That at times the social narrative may actually, get in the way of our courage.
Mhm.
That unless we begin to really double tap on where is this narrative coming from? I am not this, right? It may sometimes zap our courage. I would love to hear from you, like, in your journey as, as leaders in technology, when did you find that courage? How did you find that courage? Can we rub shoulders with you a little bit and take some of that, for us when we're going into those booths, or when we're networking with people next week? Like, tell me about courage, because at times the social constructs makes it difficult for us to have the courage that it rightfully is ours. So tell me a little bit more about how you've sort of dealt with that.
So it's been a journey, yet I will say I feel like I was raised to know whose I am, and that gives me faith, hope, and courage. I go before God in prayer every time I get ready to take the stage, because and He is going to remove those nerves. Went to an HBCU, so Historically Black College University, Hampton University. They nurtured us in a way to have courage despite what else might come to us. And then I've been the only one in the room, the only female, the only person of color, both the only woman of color, right? I've been the only person from this part of the country or the world, right? International travel. And I always thought, well, if not me, then who, right? The imposter syndrome for somebody else. Is it real? Yes. Do we have to fight it daily? Yes. But always know that if you are educating yourself, if you are being given a seat at the table or not, and bring your own seat to the table, once you earn that right and place to be there, have the confidence in yourself and your abilities to progress. And I think confidence and empowerment builds courage, right? And so it's not a one answer, one trick pony type of a thing, right? But it does take that constant reinforcement, right? That comes along with it. And, as with anything else, success begets success. I think we build that muscle a little bit more and more every time we're given the opportunity to do so. But I will say, surrounding yourselves, again, your network being your network, surrounding yourselves with people who edify you, who give you opportunities, who, if you're not happy one place, don't feel like you have to take it. Do something about it for while you're there until you can be somewhere else. Do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do, right? I was self-employed for a while. It wasn't easy. I loved it, but it wasn't easy. For me, it made more sense to go back into the workforce. But I had to have the courage, right, to actually know to do that and when to do that. Um, there's a line in one of Beyonce's songs to talk about, what your birthright is, and the is hidden in the fine print because of the way they treat us, and take the pen and rewrite it, right? We can write our own stories, and we can push forward. And sometimes we'll get knocked down, sometimes there'll be barriers. Yet, if we believe in ourselves, if we don't, then who? We can move that forward. And it's not easy. I don't want to make it like it is. Yet it is something that I think if we continually try to nurture that muscle, we can do so. And that's where it comes from. Each day you wake up, you get another chance to do it differently, do it better, right? And learn and grow from it and lean on these other experts, right, to help us through.
Mhm.
I don't know how I can top what you just shared. I would say though you're blessed to have had the experiences you had growing up and going to the institution that you attended and had that support. That's fantastic. I probably had a bit more of a grittier start, and the grit was formed at a young age. And I'll confess, it probably started as fear. Fear made me industrious. And the more results I accomplished, the hungrier I became for even more results and bigger results. And as I reflect, the results fueled a courage. And I think of our late civil rights titan, John Lewis, who shared that getting into good trouble is often necessary. And I got in a lot of trouble sometimes, unintentionally, sometimes, and knowing that I may be a bit controversial, but didn't realize how disruptive I may be. And at times it opened the eyes of my peers and my leaders. And I think I began to realize what value I contributed in a room that was often uniform. And having the results to help my confidence shifted my fear to courage. And I became, on my foundation evolved. And I'm so deeply appreciative to those who have took a chance on me, likely influenced by my quiet results, because I wasn't one to showcase. I didn't have a narrative. I allowed my results to speak for themselves. And often my leaders would be, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say something? And I'm like, I just didn't know how. And today it is my personal mission to help others craft their personal narrative, also with tangible results as evidence of their strengths. And my mission is to lift those others and showcase them in a way that I couldn't do for myself. And in a way that I want them to learn from me so they can achieve that much more and be that much more vigilant in their own careers and set an example for our youth. I think about the recent crisis in my neighborhood with the local high school and the yearbook incident. And just thinking about how that moment could have really taken away the spirit and the joy of that young man. And thankfully our community pulled through, and it was within hours. Now he has been lifted and heralded for his skill set, and he's going to move forward, and he has a whole community supporting him despite what happened. And it was reinforced. And I think we need that. And that's given him courage to stand up for himself and to know that no one, no matter if they put it in print and distribute it to thousands of homes, that doesn't mean that's who I am. And I'm going to show the world. And I love that about us. Our resilience is a core part of our DNA. Mm-hmm. And it's time we demonstrate that these organizations and realize resilience is a coveted skill set right now.
Definitely.
Operational resiliency, recovery plans, business model innovation, all of that is integral to all organizations right now during these pandemics. Definitely. And this is a test of our humanity and our leadership right now to go beyond expectations, to perform, to be innovative, to cultivate this sort of talent. And we have it in our community. We do it every day.
And that's so powerful. I mean, I love what you talk about there with grit, right? And overcoming the adversity and the resilience. It has to be built in. And I think honestly, sometimes we separate those sides of ourselves, because I can think about, like, right now being in our church community and a teen ministry leader, we know to nurture and bring up and be the mentor and role model for them. Some of our sororities and community service groups that I sit on, and members of the boards and things like that, we do things for others, right, that we don't do for ourselves, right? And I think if we embody that also in our professional lives as we do in our community service lives, that it will actually give us the courage to overcome some of that grit that we so quietly hold onto in our personal lives, that we don't want folks to know about what's going on. If we apply that to our work life, it will actually propel us to do things differently. We have an entire HBCU partnership program that we do with Congresswoman Alma Adams, and it's at the university level, and then fresh out of college, a couple of years alum. But we're so looking to inspire them and hire them at the undergraduate and internship level, that we also have to think about, okay, now that they're 5, 10 years out, what can they do? How can they do? How can we inspire them? How can they motivate the next generation with and for us? And what can we leverage as individuals as that one little nugget that we took from somewhere else that we can then apply here and make a difference, right? So we each are individuals, and if we respect it from all of it, quiet, loud, our personalities bring it all together, right? So in one case, somebody might be more of an elevator pitch, ready to go, showcase type of person, and another one, that quiet roar that you constantly was able to do, Colleen, and it propelled you and excelled your career. And everyone has to know that, get in where they fit in to make it work, right? That good trouble. Sometimes we don't talk about our troubles, but when you get into good trouble, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. But it is also depend on how it's viewed, right? And the
Yeah.
impact, the business outcome, the personal outcome, that what's next as a result of having gotten into that good trouble, to ensure that it's sustainable and that it's looking at people, planets, profits. How are we doing our environment? What is it impact, right? And the pieces that are relevant to what you're doing day to day, and then what you could do in your next level.
So you spoke earlier, Margo, about HBCUs. So historically black colleges and universities. So HBCUs and the folks that I know that are leaders now that have gone through it speak a lot about it.
Yeah.
And they speak about it from this sense. It taught me about my greatness, who I naturally am. It built my network.
Mm-hmm.
It reinforced my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me an environment that nurtured my thinking,
Yes.
who I could be, who I will be. It gave you that. It then leads me to believe that environment is really, really, really important.
Yes.
So once you leave, an HBCU, or in Canada, we don't have those, right? So now imagine like not having that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But once you leave that space, how do you create HBCU like environments throughout your career that enable you not to shortchange yourself, to remember whose you are,
Mm-hmm.
to remember your greatness? Like how do we manifest that outside? So for you as leaders now, what is your HBCU? What is the environment that you use to rejuvenate, to remember like your worth, right? I would love to hear that from you, Margo, and of course Colleen to chime in.
So for me, honestly, so I stay very connected to my HBCU alum and our alumni groups. But then I also am very involved in several Black organizations outside of work. So Jack and Jill of America, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So those are personal groups that keep me edified. I go to my teen ministry group that keeps me uplifted. Within the walls of the professional realm, I really do lean in towards our diversity and inclusion ambassadors we have a whole network. We have employee network groups. I know some companies call them BRGs and ERGs. We call them ENGs, but we have our Black Employee Network, our Business Women's Network, our Pride at SAP, our Latinos at SAP, our veterans, our Pan Asians. So within the confines of our workplace, our affinity groups, our corporate social responsibility groups that we look at and have volunteer ambassador network creates that inclusive culture and community that we do still lean into. I mean, the call I was on before coming here was for our Black Employee Network and what we were going to do. Some of our programs that we have externally facing, but driven from internally, are around supporting external organizations that like Code Path and some of our Black Girls Who Code and different organizations that help us to still have that community outreach. You'd be surprised at how much you are blessed by blessing others. And so even within our corporate realm, not even just here at SAP, but when I was assistant controller at Quest Diagnostics and some of my other roles, we always had that reciprocal effect, right, on the community and they on us. Whether we're taking a social sabbatical for 6 weeks and going to Ghana and doing something in the Wells, or we're inviting students and professionals from other underserved areas to engage with us. That keeps me charged. That actually does help me remember who I am, whose I am, how blessed I am, how fortunate things are, but not that they've been easy. I mean, I did not start out in a great neighborhood where everything was hunky-dory, so to speak. It was a rough patch. And that's why the HBCU meant so much to me, because I had lived in neighborhoods where it was definitely, we were not well appreciated or cared for by the let's say the government or society, right? But we loved and did well in our neighborhood. Then I moved to a neighborhood where it's like, well, what are you doing living here? When everyone else started moving out, when we all started coming in. So to be in that HBCU community and having that edification of ourselves and that community feeling and nurturing feeling, I knew that I always wanted to embody that and to have that and give that to others. So I do think that at companies, professionally, if you just have those types of internal network groups and the ability to help serve your surrounding community and inviting them in, that will keep those feelings going for all of your colleagues, regardless of ethnicity, but particularly in our community where the culture is so much needed and we're underrepresented in number, it just builds a tighter network for us, again, making it our net worth and keeping that nurturing piece going in the workplace.
We don't have the equivalent in Canada, as mentioned. But interestingly, I was raised in what is branded now, I think it's called Little Jamaica, Eglinton Avenue, that whole strip, Trethewey, Black Creek, then made my way to Malton, Rexdale. I've done all those neighborhoods, and the truth is, it was like a little bubble. Little West Indian African bubble, and with sprinkling of Italian and Greek, it's fascinating to me, the wonders of social media, in fact, that I've been able to reconnect with some of my youth groups, and but nothing as structured and established as what you've described in terms of an alumni. It's more of a happenstance. And the truth is, it's so rewarding to know that I'm still connected with people who I knew when I was 9. In fact, one of my closest friends today, I've known her since I was 8 years old. And we just hung out, it may have been 10 days ago. So to have that kind of circle is important. But even if I talk professionally, you're right. I think similarly, there are so many community groups, affinity groups, and it is so, and intersectionality does allow us to enjoy all kinds of events and partake and learn and grow and celebrate. And I think it's vital to our well-being. And I love that our organizations aren't just focused on the tangible business results. They're focused on us as people and having a holistic experience professionally and personally. and it's so enriching to our beings. And just imagine sometimes I'm having today very gray day, and one of those days where you want to just read in bed, but there were certain meetings that I had today that I'm like, I can't let them down. They need me. They want and when you have that kind of energy at work, I mean, that's the kind of passion and spirit and joy that, a lot of people who say they go to work, they don't necessarily feel that way. So I'm encouraging us all to find that for ourselves. And when we do find it for ourselves, bring others on board. And so that we can broaden this community and strengthen this feeling, this sense of solidarity, and having that sentiment in the workplace. That's a gift, and I do believe many of us are blessed with that gift, and I'm forever grateful. Yeah.
And when you have that gift, you stay. That's a sense of retention right there, right? So sometimes it may not be a financial thing, but it's the culture, the community that you have. That is your second family. Sometimes you're working more than you're with your own family. So to have the right atmosphere to flourish, the degree of flexibility and care from your units in your companies is just really key. It's just really key. And with, SAP and TD, customer partner relationships on so many fronts, we enjoy that, you know what I mean? And it really helps us to grow together, right? And support each other's success.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, Colleen, earlier you spoke about the double pandemic, the two pandemics.
Yes.
The pandemic of, COVID-19, right? And how it has impacted disproportionately Black people and Black professionals, physically, mentally, right? Financially. And on top of that, the second pandemic of anti-Blackness and anti-Black racism, and how that has impacted us physically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, and needing to still show up. And needing to not just show up, but still be visible. And then the additional layer of not just be visible, but you as leaders, and I know both of you, because I've spoken to both of you about this, taking on additional responsibilities, right? The late nights, the conversations, the engagements, the showing up, like you're dealing with, this pandemic happening in the world, happening to you, but you still have to show up. That is the epitome of Blackness in the workplace. That's just what it that is what happens, constantly. I'm curious, when you spoke about the double pandemic and those pieces as I went into it, how are you dealing with that as a leader right now? And how would you speak to the professionals that are listening to you right now as it relates to this double pandemic and the impact it may be having for Black tech in companies that people may not even be aware of?
I think I said it earlier too. I think the double pandemic is testing our leadership and deepening and broadening it beyond our expectations. And I think leadership has a more humanity than ever before, where we are now protecting our colleagues and the health and well-being of our colleagues and our customers in a way that we never even imagined. And I mentioned operational resiliency, recovery planning, business model innovation has to be at a speed and a thoroughness beyond what we ever imagined. Our responsiveness has to be heightened. And we all do this. So many of us, we have, all of us are mostly at home. and therefore the interaction model has radically shifted, where our engagement must be intentional. We have to make certain we make a concerted effort to connect with those in a meaningful manner. and to be as efficient as possible too, because we also have families that we have to take care of as well. And then you add the complexity of what's trending right now. And although it's been part of our lives, all our lives, it's trending. And now I'm welcoming many non-Black colleagues to engage in conversations never had before. We're using language we've never said in the workplace before. I don't believe the words white privilege came out of anyone's mouth at work until June of this year. White privilege, anti-Black racism. There's just Black and non-Black, that sort of those descriptions. This is all new vocabulary for many of us. Also, many of our non-Black colleagues are broaching this subject at work. Some of them, some of them innocently ignorant, maybe, and really trying to understand it all because they lived in their own bubble, and they didn't catch or were knee deep in this sort of media before. And now, while we're void of many distractions, it's really making an impact on many beyond what they've ever imagined. And so, yes, it's huge what is being carried. I surround myself with many loved ones. I'm inspired every day. I've got to tell you, if there's something that I love doing, is we, as Lekan knows, we use WebEx at TD quite a bit in Teams. And do I ever love when we have a call and all of these wonderful faces from our community are ever present, and we're so connected, and we're talking about how we're going to tackle all kinds of programs and activate all kinds of new curriculum and new forums to listen and learn and grow with each other, and also to incorporate our non-Black colleagues in these talks as well, and help to enlighten and help to improve the understanding and therefore the empathy, and also to amplify our voices and ensure that we are not misunderstood any longer, and to be accepted for being our wonderfully animated, expressive, passionate selves. And it's all of these. I will tell you, it is much, but I am so committed to making certain that we thrive through all this. This isn't a moment where I want us to heal as best as we can, and we've got to do it together, and we've got to embrace a wider community and do a broader healing exercise so that we thrive and push forward. This is about progression. This is about teaching our youth, my son, to be able to handle adversity, and to take adversity as a lesson, and how to become bigger, stronger, better, smarter, more energized by the adversity instead of it bringing us down. And that's what we've got to do together, both as a Black community and the non-Blacks as well, being a part of this circle. So I call myself inspired in exhaustion, and and the adrenaline keeps me going. I'm connecting with wonderful people on a regular basis who just lift me and help push me forward. And I know, God willing, I'm there. I'm going to keep going. And it's being around and being on screen and sharing time with both of you and all of the other listeners, people watching as well. It keeps us going.
Because it's about humanity at the end of the day, right? I mean, with everything else, it's about humanity, regardless of race and ethnicity. But this, which we're living through, like you said, we're all seeing at the same time. So you say, what has it done to us? It's changed our roles. So in addition to the leader roles we already have in those titles, I feel that I've become a psychologist, right? A spiritual guide or a counselor, right? An educator on many levels, which I've not gone to school for. But tips I would say is to be courageous, be empathetic, be curious, but also be willing. I think sometimes in our community we feel like, well, we've already lived it. Why do we have to explain it too? Why do we have to bring the non-blacks along? Well, if they're curious enough to ask, let's be courageous enough to respond.
Right.
People only treat you as you allow them to treat you. So if we leave it up to others to determine what the right way is to engage with us, it can still be done wrong, right? It can still be done in a way that doesn't benefit us. So I think we have to all lean into being able to have those conversations. There is benefit to getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is growth. I just think those are very key. I have three children. One graduated college, one's a senior in college, and one's ninth grade. So I'm navigating this
Wow.
time we're living in with each of them differently, right?
Mhm.
And I just try to keep them lifted. And in terminology that we're not used to hearing in the workplace, like you already mentioned, also add to that things like, okay, what again is the difference between equality, equity, and inclusion, right?
Yeah.
Like you try to say, okay, yeah, if you give all three of us the same thing, that's equal, but how it lands for each of us is going to be different. We're from different countries, we're from different, if you make it equitable that you're giving each one of us the respective accommodations to maybe see the same thing, that's nice. Now you've been fair in your assessment and in your doling out of what you're doing. Yet, if you're being inclusive, you're removing those systemic barriers that each person can excel and incorporate their talents and skills right where they are, right? There's imagery around that. And the fence becomes, instead of this wooden fence that you can't see over, it becomes
Mhm.
a picket fence of wiring with see-through holes that everybody can reach the same vantage point from their own respective uniquenesses. And so that's something that wasn't really talked about or distinguished before. Before, people want to make diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging all meaning the
Yeah.
same and synonyms. They're not. They're very different. Embracing the differences and the uncommon commonalities is diversity, right? And really understanding equitable distribution and inclusion as a behavior and belonging, that sense that's there. So I think those are things too that have changed during this time of this double pandemic, even cognizance about the disparities in healthcare,
Yeah.
and that these issues long existed but have been exacerbated by the pandemic, by the racial injustice and things like that. So I think that we all are living through them. Yet we have to say that one common thing is humanity. Let's try to make the strides to get through this period better on the other side. Looking to say, yes, it is a moment that happened in history in 2020. It is a movement to take us to the next level. It is difficult, but hasn't life always been in some way or another? And what can we learn from this? What can we bring from a previous time of difficulty to this moment to help us professionally and personally so that we can be unapologetically authentic, unapologetically excellent, unapologetically courageous and fearful when it is, you know, necessary due to the circumstances that might present fear in those moments, but unapologetically able to overcome and still excel and still be viewed for the contributions that we're making in today's professional realm and personal realm, and set those boundaries. They gave us 10 extra pandemic days. Okay, well, a crisis is a crisis. If I'm emotionally falling apart because of the impact of this pandemic, no, I don't have coronavirus, but if I take 5 pandemic days, understand that it was brought on by this, right? So don't make excuses. Don't try to hide under. Don't work till 2 in the morning just because now everybody else is virtual and you are already virtual. Set those boundaries and let it be known that I'm going to get it done. Here are my times of when I can get it done. And yeah, sometimes I might work a little extra, but you're also not going to be able to take advantage of this situation either in order to get the best of me from me unapologetically. So that's what I would add about navigating through this pandemic. Double.
Hmm, so much in there. So we're almost out of time. So I want to ask you to sort of leave the audience with one or two things as they prepare for the summit next week, right? And being with 10,000 other colleagues from the Black tech community and allied communities, right? Like, how should they be thinking about? So we're in Q4 of 2020, right? And you as leaders have a different vantage point, right? And it's a privilege for me to share, the space with you and to be able to just have a lot of your time, right? And I learn a bunch of things from you all the time. So I want to share some of that. Like how, what one or two things do you want to leave with the audience to say today, right? To be like, here's what you should be thinking about next week for the summit, but here's how you should be thinking about the rest of the year, Q4, right? I would love your thoughts on that. Colleen, you wanna start?
I'm probably going to be a bit repetitive, but it's time to invest in yourself. And it's time to be very thoughtful about where you invest your time, your energy, your money. It's time we all be very mature about how we're going to invest ourselves and with whom. And with whom. I know many people may appreciate that the circles you keep often reflect who you are, and realize it's not just how it reflects who you are, but it's also what nurtures and cultivates your soul, your intelligence, your thoughts, and it influences your vocabulary, your language, and that language influences your thoughts, and your thoughts influence your heart. It's all interwoven and connected, and you've got to be very thoughtful about that, and what you surround yourself with, and it has to be intentional. Now when we socialize and interact, it has to be, it's not a happenstance anymore. I'm not going to bump into you at the club. We're not going to the club. I'm not bumping into you in usual places. So we've got to be really thoughtful about where we invest our energy and our time and our minds right now.
Thank you,
And I
Colleen.
would simply add to that, as it relates to the summit, be prepared. Come ready, be ready. Know what you want, right? Go look at the website and understand what's happening. Listen to what's been said today,
That's
and
right.
and make sure that you're ready to have those candid conversations. Make sure that your resume is ready. Make sure that your speech, your look, your everything is on point with what the excellence is being delivered by this conference. It will be what you make it. As much as you put into it, you'll get from it.
Right.
Trust me, they're ready for you. We all are. So I would say to do that. And then I would say with the rest of the year, be very intentional, as was already said, but be set goals, right? Set goals for the end of this year, make them smart and specific and measurable and all those things, right? But then also know what the timeline is for it. So then you don't set yourself up for disappointment, right? And understand that, okay, it's Q4. A lot of companies might be looking at you. Maybe they're hiring for the new year. Let's set a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan, a 1-year plan, and be very methodical in how you execute against it. So again, that comes also with being prepared, doing your research, researching the market, researching your data of yourself, your skills assessment, researching the industries. If it's time for a change or not, don't hop just because, hop with intention. Negotiate, negotiate, negotiate if you get the ability to do so. Know your floors and ceilings, your ranges. So just really doing your homework and being prepared to attend this event, to finish the year strong, and to set 2021 up to be the best it's ever been for you, as much as you can control. Always look to control the controllables. So that's what I would say. Be unapologetically you. It's only one.
Yep, yep, yep. Well, thank you so much, Margo, Colleen, for your time, for your energy. Right, I didn't have to say much. I knew you would just chat and do what you do. I told you, Colleen. Right. Thank you for that. Right, you made it easy.
Thank
Right,
you.
there's so much goodness in here. When you're off this, go on the channel and see people are asking you questions, right? I couldn't even get to them because you all just kept chatting, right? But it's all good. So I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for this, right? For folks who are listening, who are watching, right? Next week is BFUTR, 10,000 Black tech professionals and allies coming together from across Canada, US, Africa, right? Europe, and of course, Caribbean. It's
Yeah,
going
of
to be,
course.
of course, it's going to be an incredible, incredible session, right? Incredible 2 days. be there, right? And, chat with this amazing two, leaders, right? They're going to be there, right? So thank you both once again for your time, for your energy. Go check out what folks are asking online, folks. If you want to engage with them, please do, right? But thank you everyone once again for listening. And thank you both again for being here. Have a good rest of your day. Be well and talk to you and see you next week.
Thanks for having us. Thanks everyone for
Thank you.
attending. See you in the
Thanks,
chat.
everyone. See you next week.